What is up, everybody? How are we going? How are we going? Welcome on board on this beautiful morning for you. If you're signing in from the EST, if you are coming in from any other zone, good evening, good afternoon to you. If you're coming in from Sydney, good early morning. If you're coming in from India, good evening. And anywhere else, somewhere in the afternoon. Pop in some hellos, try and introduce yourselves in the chats. We're going to be having some very interesting conversations today, and I'll tell you why interesting, because it's very crucial with whatever is happening in the market right now with respect to how you can actually stay ahead of the game. The beautiful part about what we get to do is we get to speak to a lot of very important people and people crushing it within Smart Lead and figuring out how the hell they do what they do. So while we wait for the group to sort of fill in, we are going to be speaking about three core features over here, which is email infrastructure. We're going to be speaking about email deliverability tips, things that we learned over the past few days, as well as overall account setup and what you should look for. But while you're over here, please, please, please welcome yourself to the crew, because guess what? These are the people who will be in the same Slack chat as you, and these are the people who will most likely help you by sharing their tips and secrets as well. So trust me, when we build these community conversations, more than anything, it is a fantastic opportunity for you to say hi to people, welcome yourself to them, and also learn from them. It's a great chance to network, and it's a great chance to meet people across the world who are actually doing really, really well within Smart Lead as well as in the cold emailing space. We will start off in the next 2 minutes. We've got 21, 22 people. We'll have some more come in. Howdy, everybody. I hope you're all keeping safe across various parts of the world. Drop in a hello. Tell us where you're from. That's all you need to do. That's good enough to get the conversation started. Welcome, Harry, for your first call. Hopefully one of many. Mark, UK, we love it. We love it. Medellin, we love Medellin. We love UK as well. My unfortunate lack of understanding of Medellin just comes from the Netflix TV show, but I heard it's a beautiful place to be and a lot of good things from a lot of people actually in the cold evening space. So awesome. Let's get some more people dropping in where they're from. Fede, of course. How are you going, man? From the Big Apple. Good morning. Lovely. Is it coming to summer now in New York? I'm assuming that's what's happening because it's becoming winter for us over here. Sorry, the other way around. It's coming winter for you all now, and it's becoming summer for us because we have warm Christmases. Also, everyone, please mute your mics and unlock it only if you have a choice to. Oh yeah, I heard it's becoming winter. All right, we'll wait one more minute, everyone, and we're gonna kick off. Just like I said, you want to hang on. I want to be very clear. This call will not drag on. I'll be very efficient with your time. I want to speak about three core important topics that you need to focus on. I actually wrote about this on social media the other day, and I think it's something we all need to focus on as well if we're trying to scale our business. There will be three core topics we'll be speaking about, which is email infrastructure. The second one is deliverability. We all care about that. And the third one is account setup and some of the things you need to look for. All these things that you need to focus on are not things that we have done ourselves. We are running experiments within Smart Lead that we'll be sharing exclusive information towards. I'll give you an example. We're running campaigns with warm-ups run for 1 week only, campaigns with only 2 weeks of warm-up, campaigns with 3 weeks, and campaigns with 4 weeks and 5 weeks. We are doing all the experiments. We're losing our accounts for the benefit of you so that you know what the best outcome is. Aviv, right now it's Twitter, but ideally in 2 weeks' time, I will be back on LinkedIn once we have LinkedIn sorted out, and I'll be back speaking a lot more and sharing a lot more of my thoughts on LinkedIn. God's grace to give me my account back. But yeah. Awesome. All right. We're not going to wait any more longer. Let's kick off. One last final shot. If you haven't told us where you're from, drop in where you're from in the chat. Introduce yourselves, because like I said, you might have the next person you're going to learn, get inspired from, or maybe your next customer waiting for you right within the chat. Sweet. So team, today we're going to be spending the next 20 minutes top speaking about three core topics. One is email infrastructure. The second one being deliverability. Third one being account setup. Now, you can take your notes out. Feel free to ask questions where and when you have towards the tail end of this conversation. And we'll unblock the chat for you to answer any questions, so on and so forth. So when I speak about email infrastructure, I caught up with some of the high-performing players within Smart Lead, as well as people who are sending north of 3, 4, 5, 6 million leads reaching out to 6 million leads per month. So obviously very heavy accounts. That might not directly correlate to you, and that's okay, but there is some important lessons for you to learn when it comes to overall email infrastructure. So I'll break it down into 3 points on email infrastructure. Point 1 is, hopefully everyone knows that when they're setting up their overall workspace or tenant setup, you are not setting up more than 10 to 15 domains per workspace or tenant. And I'll explain the entire infrastructure first, and I'll tell you why this is the appropriate approach. Cool. So 10 to 15 domains per workspace or per tenant. Tenant is the equivalent of a workspace in Outlook. Per domain that is in each workspace, you want to have maximum 5 and about 3 is the safest zone number of users per individual domain. And the third one, you want to ensure that you're not doing more than about 50 mails as throughput. That includes warm-up and outbound messages as well. Now, why? The reason is one and one alone is email infrastructure and reputation is specific to the domain and not to the user. So it's all about damage limitation. And what I mean by that is, in a situation your domain gets burned, it gets picked for spam, or just whatever, life happens. In that situation, you've limited your damage control to a maximum of 5 mailboxes that you've lost, right? And also in the worst case scenario, where because we've noticed and seen that workspaces, especially Gmail, they do credit card attribution. That means if you have 1 or 2 or 3 domains hit within one workspace, it's very, very likely the rest of the domains within that same workspace are also going to get affected, whether it's lockouts, whether it's being spam blocks, or you're going to get throttled. So in general, that is the approach that we appropriate for you to go ahead and take. Now that's one on the workspace side. Now let's talk about the second topic, which has to come and go ahead with respect to your overall email outbound infrastructure. Now, when you are going ahead and sending messages out to clients, right? Or when you're sending messages on behalf of clients, you need to be contentiously careful that you always got a 70-30 rotation pool. And what I mean by that is, you have, let's say, we go with the previous example of 10 domains, 5 users per domain, and we've got 3 domains set up that way. So we got 30 domains into 5, that is 150 mailboxes. What I would recommend you to always do is have a 70-30 rotation pool cycle. That means 70% of your accounts are always active, sending messages on behalf of yourself or your clients, and 30% are sitting purely in warm-up alone. That is to ensure that if and when there is any sort of issue that happens on a Google side, Outlook side, SMTP side, any side, we all know there's a bunch of stuff happening in the market right now with sending and restrictions. What that means is you were never at loss for your client, because we all know if we do not send out messages, we do not get paid. And it's extremely crucial for us to ensure that messages go out at all points in time. With that being said, what the 70-30 ratio does is it ensures if and when any of your mailboxes always get trapped or blocked or restricted, you always have backup mailboxes without having to wait 2 weeks of warm-ups or 2 weeks of anything that setup's required. You can immediately kick that off. And this is what categorically some of the best in the market do, because they know at scale there'll always be some lockout issues, there'll always be some spam block issues, but they never let that restrict them from making money. And these are the things you also need to be doing. Now, the 70-30 ratio is a common ratio we've seen people follow. Some people follow 80-20 ratio. Some people follow 90-10 ratio. In my opinion, 90-10 gets very risky. 60-40 becomes a little too lazy, where it's inefficient and it's not necessary to have that many dormant mailboxes. 70-30 is, from what I've seen, some of the power users have achieved really good success from. All right. Now, let's go on to the third point that I want to speak to you about, which is to effectively go ahead and again come down the topic of email infrastructure. And that is to go ahead and ensure that if you are not based in India and if you're not based in, I believe, other parts of the world, you need to ensure that you're using something like a Brex or an AirWallex or an equivalent software that gives you virtual credit cards. The importance of virtual credit cards are picking up even more and more nowadays, because it is important to ensure that you are not getting credit card tracked. This is what Facebook did notoriously really, really well back in the day, where every time your account got blocked, they started attributing it to your credit card. So ensure that when you're creating separate accounts, you create them under separate credit cards. And very, very, very important, do not create them under the Southeast Asia IP infrastructure. Always create your accounts either using a VPN within the US or the EU zones. Australia also, I'm not too sure, but the North America zones as well as the EU zones are the safest spots to ensure that you've got the best IP infrastructure set up for you. Because what I've also seen and noticed is sometimes when you have Outlook accounts that are set up through GoDaddy or etc., you end up being put into the cheaper IP pools, and then you end up having tenant blocks happen for you. And when tenant blocks happen, they're very notoriously annoying because they not only prevent you from sending messages, but they also prevent you from receiving messages. And that gets dangerous because you're potentially missing revenue. Cool. Are we all aligned over here? Drop a hand, drop a reaction if this makes sense to you. If you've got a question, drop it in the chat because we will go ahead and answer that towards the tail end. All right, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, a bunch of reactions. Yeah, drop a thumbs up. I'll wait for everyone to drop a thumbs up because could you further explain the IP infrastructure? Kareem, could you give me an expansion of what you mean? So, Fede, you raised a fantastic question, and I will answer that very, very quickly for you. I use resellers based in India, but they say the IP emails. Look, Kareem, I unfortunately can't give you advice or guidance on that because everyone says a lot of claims. The only way you can find out is to do a reverse IP check. There's a bunch of free tools to figure out where they are, right? Fedez raised a fantastic question. I want to answer that very quickly. How do you find relevant domains? Because you've obviously got a large infrastructure of mailboxes that you want to create. So how do you create relevant domains? And I want to speak about that very quickly if you allow me. One of the things you need to be contentious of is you want to find parallel domains. So what we've seen some people do, and this I'm not applying when you're a SaaS platform, I'm applying this with respect to when you're doing client work, which is very similar. What ends up happening is when you acquire a client, you end up having to go through this negative experience with the customer where you need to tell them to wait 2 weeks because you need to warm up their mailboxes. The easiest trick for you to follow is to set up some generic usernames, Max, Gina, Levi, whatever you want to go with. And you want to go with your niche or niche specific domains. So for Smart Lead, for example, when we're doing outbound or we're doing sort of experimentation, we don't always have Smart Lead in the domain. We do other parallel domains like get better sales, quick sales, fast revenue, sales team scales. So a bunch of random domains that are attributed in ethos to what your business does. That itself works significantly better than going with a random thing like apple banana juice or orange mango, some random stupid names that people go with. Don't do that. It's just one simple thing. And guess what? We're in 2023. ChatGPT is your best friend. You just need to give it your niche or niche. You need to just go ahead. Yeah, exactly. Just use ChatGPT to give it a bunch of random examples relevant to your client's branding or to your own company's ethos. I understand some of you are IPO'd businesses or larger businesses, and you cannot do that based on legal protocol. That's okay. But you can go ahead and easily get company names or domain names that are in the theme of what your business does. And you should be perfectly fine to then use those as ways to parallel yourself into your own dedicated domains if you want. Okay, cool. That answers 2 questions, hopefully. One is the domains. The second thing is for you to go ahead and actually ensure that when you have your username set up, you can go with generic usernames and eventually change that up into your own client-specific names. But that's done naturally, right? Because you no longer need to go ahead and wait for 2 weeks. It's done immediately. A lot of people over here are actually paying the $7. We personally are paying on Outlook at least. We're using Outlook specifically right now. We're not using Gmail that much. No reason. It's just we're on Outlook. Yep, you can see. Look, whenever you see something cheaper because of feature parity or price parity, you can always try it out and see if it works. And if it works for you, fantastic. If it doesn't, it doesn't. All right. Now I'm going to jump into the second thing that I want to speak to you about, which is email deliverability. And I just want to pick up on one vertical topic for you all over here. By the way, it's not nail polish. I just got hurt. So just as a note, one thing that people tend to do, yes, we shout very actively for you to go ahead and turn off your open rate tracking. But I get we all track vanity metrics and we all track, Ahmed, thank you. We all track the need to go ahead and track these open rates, which honestly I don't understand, but it's okay, right? I've been there, I get it. So here's what I can suggest for you as an alternative to help you get the better of 2 worlds. And that resolution is effectively what I refer to as, I apologize for it's just terminologies, is to go with effectively a master campaign and slave campaign infrastructure. So let's just say you have 10,000 leads for arbitrary discussion. What I would do is I would take 9,000 leads and run them into the main campaign without open rate tracking. And then I'd run a parallel campaign. Nothing's different. everything is the exact same. The mailbox is the same. Nothing has changed. All I do is turn on open rate tracking on the 1,000 leads campaign. And the reason is reason in one and one alone. What we need to realize and what I've come to see is certain mailboxes do not perform the same for certain infrastructures. So what I mean is if you're targeting Fortune 5,000, Fortune 10,000, certain domains that have an age range, their verbiage is set a certain way, you bought them from certain DNS providers, all those have a net effect on whether you have premium deliverability or not. And what this does, this simple infrastructure that does, is it gives you eyesight. I know open rates suck. I'm not attributing for it, but it's better than nothing, as what most people say, is it'll give you the ability to understand which mailbox or domain is performing better for this campaign that you're reaching out to and these leads that you're reaching out to. Remember, you want to ensure that those leads are in a similar persona and you're not targeting multiple separate leads because this concept doesn't apply there. So then what you end up doing is you very quickly work out which mailboxes are performing well and not performing well on a core metric, right? And at that point in time, it's easy for you to basically turn off on that main campaign the mailboxes that are clearly underperformers, because in Smart Lead, when you scroll down on a campaign level, you can click on the email performance tab and you will see the performance of the mailbox with respect to core attributes or measurements that you're looking for that campaign you're trying to reach out to. What happens if you connect the same emails to multiple campaigns with a limit of 30 per email and min of 10 minutes wait time? Nothing. It just goes a little slower. That's all it is. You just need to ensure the only thing that we ask you to do is ensure that when you have any limitations set up, that your mailbox level setting is less than your campaign level setting. Because if it is more, you will be skipping triggers. And it'll basically go slow. All right. Now that we're done with the second part was quick enough. I want to just get a bit of thumbs ups to ensure that we're all good. And if you have any questions, drop your questions in the chat. And do not feel shy to ask questions, because the whole point of these events over here is to help you all learn more and for us to share the insights that we pick up from a bunch of people across the market. Yeah, I will jump into Smart Centers a bit more right after this last piece, which is account setup. Okay. So if we're not getting any more questions, I'm going to jump into the last piece over here in effect of being productive for this meeting for everyone. With account setup, okay, before I jump into that, I want to clear up these two questions. The question that Sean has asked. Do you find Glock apps useful to understanding mailbox health? Yes, absolutely. But it's not the only tool that you use. With these softwares, you need to understand that you need to triangulate your data. GMAS has its own deliverability software. Glock apps has its own software. Mail Genius has its own software. Mail Tester has its own software. Mail Placement has its own software. All of these tools have different sets of seeder domains and mailboxes. Remember that it's very important for you to understand that the domains and mailboxes that Glock app owns will react very, very differently to the mailboxes and domains that are owned by Mail Genius or Mail Tester. So you always need to triangulate this data and work through it, because you cannot go ahead and just use one to give you the absolute answer. That is the unfortunate truth that you need to work with. Okay. Now, there are a few questions. I will write it down. I'll just type it in. So it's Glock apps, Mail Tester, then Mail Genius, and I forgot what the other one I had. I think it was Mail Placement, Placement Tester. And then GMAS has its own free one. Just pop it in there. Smart Lead is bringing its own as well. But even that, like I mentioned, there's always a mail reach is also decent. So we're bringing our own as well, but that will take, again, the same bias that I want to mention to you all, that use us, but use that us in bias with a bunch of other software that exists in the market. Okay. When you click, that is a Smartly level question. I'll answer that in a quick moment. When you say account setup and IP restrictions, does that mean only domain or email provider as well? I don't necessarily understand your question, Eddie, if you don't mind expanding that a bit further. But to ensure that I can help you all with this, please note that if you're using something like Private Mail or GoDaddy's cPanel software or Hostinger's cPanel software, you need to know what you're signing up for, right? Like, you need to be okay with the fact that it's not like, I'm not trying to play the victim over here, but you cannot come and tell me that it's not working when you've used the cheapest of the cheapest of the cheapest of the cheapest things in the market and you're not getting results. It's there like that for a reason. Like private mail, for example, Private mail, for example, doesn't even track when you sent messages on SMTP. They just don't track it. Why GoDaddy is the cheapest, I have no idea. But do note, everyone, this is just a big FYI for you all. If you get an Outlook plus GoDaddy or Gmail plus GoDaddy, it will work fine for you initially, but everything comes with a price. It will go ahead and eventually start tapering down. That is what we have categorically seen. We recommended that. I will mention that we recommended go for the GoDaddy approach with Outlook and Gmail because it was cheap and a lot of people are asking for cheap. But what we've seen is as more people went for it, after a month and a half to 2 months, it will taper back. You will see sudden drastic changes in your Outlook and Gmail account performances, which you will not see if you got it straight away from Gmail and Outlook. Because I feel like what they do is they get private IP addresses that are dedicated for these third-party resellers that they sell to that are on the cheaper end of things. Cool. Darshil, I answered that question already. You can see it in the pre-recording. We do not recommend getting it from the SEA region. For best results, you're better off getting it from EU and the North American zones. Where should we buy domains? Except Namecheap, everything is fine in my opinion. Namecheap is simple. Yeah, I'm talking about GoDaddy's $2-3 account. Namit, yes, thank you for mentioning that. Sorry, no. I'll be very clear because I think I might have confused people. GoDaddy offers a specific plan to go ahead and get Outlook accounts and Gmail accounts from GoDaddy that costs about a third or fourth of the cost if you went to go to Outlook itself or Gmail itself to get it. So sorry, that was my mistake. No, you can still use Outlook and Gmail with GoDaddy as two separate instances. Just make sure you get your Outlook accounts from Gmail and Outlook. Yeah, sorry, that was my mistake. Sorry, everyone. It's just that when you use Outlooks from GoDaddy, they charge for like $1.50 or something. Those are the ones that are at effect. So yes, my apologies. I know I would have scared a bunch of people there. Why not Namecheap? I'm hopeful that they have fixed this, but it Infomail. The reason with Namecheap is simple. I believe they're still blacklisted by Sorbs. I'm not sure if that still happened, but they are still Spamhaus. Sorry. Spamhaus is the ones that went and wrecked Namecheap. So every single domain that is bought through Namecheap is automatically blacklisted. No arguments there. Okay, you can check it out through your IP address tracking, etc. You'll find it very easy. Zoho, you can use it, but you probably get restricted very, very quickly. There is a question that has been put up in the market saying, hey, what if I get it with Namecheap and then I move to another DNS provider? I don't have enough data to give you an answer. Cool. So that is the honest truth. I want to speak about the last topic quickly before I just go answering questions in the chat. The last question is account setup. Now, account setup is in parallel to what we are speaking about over here. So they're all good questions to have asked. When you're getting domains, beyond Namecheap, you're okay to go with any domain name provider that we have seen so far work fine. This is for our eyes and ears and our eyes and ears alone. This is not something you want to spread to the open market. Cloudflare is fantastic. You are missing out if you're not using Cloudflare. It is a technical solution, and that is what scares away majority of the market. If you host your software or your ESPs on Cloudflare, you will just have a significantly better time. Their protocols, their technical infrastructure is just multitudes better than these generic providers like GoDaddy, Namecheap, and so on and so forth. Pork Bun was obviously a very famous one that came into place. Nick Abraham made it very famous as well, but then after that, everyone jumped onto it, and then that ended up having a bit of a net negative effect, but it's still a very underrating software compared to GoDaddy, etc. But like Aviv mentioned, Cloudflare and Outreach is top notch. You will not lose. It is fantastic. Cool. Cloudflare has this fantastic internal thing they do to manage their IPs and their blacklist protocol structures, their IPv6 and IPv4 system. It's just great. Just stick with that, right? So that's that. The other thing with account setup, I want to mention, it sort of bleeds into the first thing that I spoke about. Please ensure that when you're setting up multiple accounts, hundreds of accounts, you are not using the same IP address. You are splitting that across separate IPs and separate credit cards. It is paramount that you do this. Cool. If you were to go ahead and use your own SMTP system, perfectly fine. There is nothing wrong with it. Just be very sure of what you are doing. Do not get sold by someone else trying to sell you the dream, because it is not worthwhile, right? If you're doing your own private SMTP, ensure that you have complete understanding that you are most likely going to burn through that SMTP IP address very quickly, and you need to have the right systems in place to move parallelly across to separate IP. Now, one more thing to mention to you when you're working with IPs, do not work with IPv6, work with IPv4. Now, for those who are aware, IPv4 addresses were the OG addresses that were created in the domain or, internet protocol infrastructure back in the day. And then when they realized that the internet got really famous, people realized we were running out of IPv4 addresses. So they introduced a new protocol, which is an IPv6 address. Now, why is IPv6 different from IPv4? It's actually simple because IPv6 addresses almost act to some extent like shadow addresses or like alias addresses. So you might have 8 IPv6 addresses that all run back into a single IPv4 address internally, right? So for that reason, I recommend when you're getting an IP, get an IPv4 address. That is a classic individual thing that you want to use, and that's the best way to go for it. All right. Those are the questions of topics that I had to go and answer for you. Now we're going to run through some of the questions in the chat. If I've missed your question, feel free to drop it again. If I've already answered it, please don't post it just for the sake of everyone else. Someone asked me a question about Inframail. I don't have an answer. I think I've been quite clear a few times. I am hopeful for them to succeed. I want them to succeed. I think we need them in the market desperately. I just don't know if they're there yet. If they're there, fantastic. But that's all I will say. I this, but hopefully this new Microsoft thing that I saw on their Facebook group is a big win that they need. I just don't have enough data to back that. Cool. Can Outlook and Gmail accounts be set up in Southeast Asia? Will it have deliverability? There's no set. I want to be very clear, team, over here. When anyone sits and acts like they're the end all be all with deliverability, they're absolutely lying to you, including me. We send out 14 million emails, but even I can't give you a guidance on whether what's right or wrong. These are just best guesses. The best guess that I can give you right now is to work with the North American regions and the European regions. That might change in 2 weeks' time. Cool. Deliverability is just not affected by that. If you end up creating a campaign with subject lines in capitals, with exclamation marks, emojis, images, HTML, and telling them to sell you their home, you can have the best. You can literally hand deliver that email to them and it will be blocked in spam. Cool. All right. Is setting up inboxes under one IP fine, or should I have VPN for every 50 workspaces? 50 workspaces? No, I think every 10 workspaces, you probably want to go for a new IP address. That's a lot. That's because each workspace will have at least 10 to 15 domains or maybe more, right? So that's I want to do that. Cool. Zoho's out of the picture. What would you recommend setting? Would you recommend setting up several different profiles per client? Yes, 100%. Keep it as separate as possible. What tools are used for virtual card? Brex and AirWallets are the two popular ones. I can't use Brex because I'm not in America. I use AirWallets, which is based out of Australia, but it is friendly across most of the world. Go. 10 domains under one admin account in Outlook, problem not? No problem at all. That should be perfectly fine. Aviv, thank you. Questions about Inframail, talk to their support, their Facebook group for answers. They know this better than us. How will smart senders be separate from Inframail? Just 1 second, guys. How will smart senders be separate from Inframail? I don't know much about Inframail, but the goal is very simple. We want to build our own email infrastructure. And if you're able to trust us to send your emails right now, hopefully you should trust us you'll be able to trust us to build the infrastructure to ensure you that we'll get the safer deliverability. I can't promise you anything because we are yet to go ahead and even scope it all out or even start the development. So we're a long way away from that. So I don't want to sit here and give you promises. What's going to be separate from Inframail? We own the infrastructure, right? You don't need to work with a third-party software. We will own the whole thing end to end, and we will build the entire deliberating system within smartly. Simple. Some of our email accounts have high spam rates. We did a Glock apps test and it passed DKIM, SPF, etc. The only issue is the IP got blacklisted in SORB, so we had to delist it. We can't figure out how to fix the spam rate and ensure it was because of blacklist. Usually, once it gets picked up on a blacklist, I just give up on it. There's no point. Like, do note that some of these blacklists, they just naturally just remove you within 30 days. Spam House does that. Sorbs does that sometimes. You don't need to get that amped up on it. But usually, I just don't bother and I just move on to something else. Dedicated IP or ExpressVPN? No, you probably want to go with a dedicated IP rather ExpressVPN, because the point is, if you're trying to access the same account again, ExpressVPN or NordVPN do not give you the same IP address. They give you the same location. So if you're logging to the same workspace from 7 different, addresses in New York or wherever, it will no longer be an issue about deliverability. It'll just be the lockyard, because like, where are you actually located? So I would always go with use something like web proxy share. They're very cheap, but you get dedicated residential IP. That answers my second question. Web proxy share is the one that we use internally for a bunch of stuff. That is good to go. Do you recommend setting up everything in one Cloudflare or multiple? Is it safe to set up multiple domains with the same Google Workspace? Yep, 10 to 15. Good enough. AirWallex does not work with Outlook. So Namit, I think the issue is AirWallex does not work in India because we tried. It doesn't, or Outlook in general is not working for you. Okay, thanks for that. That's good news.
Because it's not, requires credit cards, according to my opinion, not
debit cards. Okay. Okay, duly noted. Fair enough. Thank you for that. I will try to do some research about credit card softwares that exist. That'll be a little tough, but that's good. Duly noted. Thank you. If I'm alone in my agency, what name should I use for the emails? Doesn't matter. Just names for your clients or your niche that you're trying to reach out to. Under Workspace, having multiple domains, is that the way to save Google and Microsoft accounts? No, not the way to save on. It's just to protect your account infrastructure. How do you manage phone number verification on G Suite and Outlook? Any clues? Darshil, there is actually an article that was shared by community member Anirudh. He was very kind to share this strategy. You need to just search on the Smart Lead Help Center for the word verification, and there's a guide that we've written down. So check it out. One more hack for you all. I don't know if it's still working or not, but it was a while ago. When you create an Outlook or a Gmail account, when you're creating a user, it asks the first name, last name, username, and phone number. Over there, I don't think they're still doing the verification checks that they do when you are asked to verify it. So if you put in your phone number over there, it actually will work fine. So just a heads up. Still an issue with Namecheap? Yep. Isn't it more problematic to have 10 domains in workspace compared to... if you can manage one domain per workspace infrastructure, yeah, go for it. It's just going to be extremely tedious work. Like, we're trying to find an interim. You can obviously do that. If you can get through with it, fantastic. When you click ignore leads that exist in another campaign, is that client level or account level? Fantastic question, Mark. It is both. It's up to you. If you associate the campaign to a client, it is client level. If you do not associate to a client, it is your entire account level. You get both advantages in this case. Instantly has a function to automatically follow up messages, whatever. Terrence, I will give you this as a categorical answer to make it easy. Everything they have, we have had for 6 months or before. Cool? And I don't mean that in a snarky way. Yeah. You just need to turn it on, but that feature is already there. And I believe that was a quote unquote board feature. Cool. Is it possible to have some documentation in Knowledge? Yep, I will set up a bunch of guides and videos about this. Noted. And yes, the video recording will be shared. Analytics for Smart Lead in the past month, when it's coming. Yasin, the team has made lots of strides and works with respect to the infrastructure that we carry and work towards. We will go ahead and improve that to 1 month very, very soon. Please note that it's not a function of you. It's a function of the bunch of people who have 7, 10, 15 million leads. And when they do something on our system that is 720 accounts wide, that ends up bringing bottlenecks that we don't want to affect the rest of the market. So that's why it's set up that way, but we are working on it. That's what was the last 2 weeks about, is to set this up so that we build for the future. So it'll come in very soon. All right, team, last question, 1 or 2 questions that you can drop in. I will answer that. After this, we will call it a day, and every other question can be dropped onto the Smart Lead Slack channel, and I'll have that answered for you. I will go ahead and pick up one more question that has been asked. Please use the AI categorization and it switches automatically. Yeah, thank you, Namit, for answering that. Appreciate it. Swapnil, can we please share the Slack link? It becomes a thing. I think we should do that next time onwards because people always ask for it. I will just share it to you, everyone over here. 1 second. It's okay. I got it. Yeah, that should be the link, everyone. Please feel free to join that. Okay, I will answer a question that is more strategic versus Smart Lead, because Smart Lead I can always answer in the support chat if you want. Was the subsequence live already on the master where we can activate? I'm not too sure I answered that question, sorry. Using single domain or 2 or more ESP is a good idea. Darshil, I don't think I understand the question. Do you recommend setting up everything in one Cloudflare or multiple? I've answered this. Arnold, multiple, where possible. Best ways to get us out of spam: dump the mailbox, move on to a new one. Follow-up on reply management coming soon. Instead of us sending emails, money is in the follow-up. Follow-up reply management. Yasin, can you express what that means again a bit further? Outlook and G Suite together. Yes, always you can have two separate. Oh, wait, huh? You can't have two separate ESPs on a single domain because your MX records will fight with each other. You have to have one ESP per domain. How to improve categorization, sentiment analysis within Smart Lead? Two things are happening. Move to GPT-4. Second, a Smart Lead is bringing in its own prompt for GPT-4, so you can control the prompt yourself. Give us about 2 to 3 weeks. That will be live for you. You will be able to bring your own domains to Smart Senders. Yes, you will not be able to buy them within Smart Lead when we start off. Have you seen Outlook do better than Gmail's recently? Yes, recently. Gmail's having a weird, crazy moment right now, but it cycles. It will come and go. That's always been the case. All right, team, that is all for now. I do not have any more. I mean, we'll not answer any more questions. Any more questions, drop it in the Slack channel. Please join the Slack. That is where we're building the community for everyone. Drop your notes there. We're here to assist you. See you next week. Lots of cool people coming up. Lots of webinars. Just for your reference, before you all jet out, we've got some massive, massive, powerful people from Jesse, from Nick Abraham, from Daniel Fazio, some of the biggest players, people who are doing multiple millions of dollars using Smart Lead or not using Smart Lead, but Adban itself. They are going to come here, guide you and help you for free. Just join the meetings next time. Thank you. Have a fantastic week ahead. Enjoy your weekend. Hope you make more money. Thank you. Take care.